morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Ryan Trainer. I'm a PIO assigned here on this incident, but I'm also a member of the New York City Fire Department. I have about 11 years on the job. I'm assigned to Battalion 5-8 in Brooklyn, New York.
My name is Jim Wilkins. For 34 years, I was an engine captain with the San Bernardino County Fire Department, and since the early 90s, I've been a PIO with Southern California Team 2.
The time was 0800 hours. 255 firehouses around the 5 boroughs in New York City. They were beginning their day tours. Some members were just waking up, grabbing a cup of coffee, turning on the TV, reading the paper, checking the rig, getting ready for the all 900 roll call, just like you all do.
At 0530, in fire camps across the West and across the country, men and women like you pulled their pants on, laying down in their sleeping bags. They stumbled over to the sound of blue rooms opening and closing. They found a cup of coffee, and they made their way to a briefing tent to find out what was going on that day, just like you did this morning.
At 0846 hours Eastern Time, American Airlines Flight 11 crashed into Tower 1 of the World Trade Center. Battalion 1 witnessed this ungodly act and transmitted a second alarm on arrival.
3,000 miles away, I was in my day room, Station 101, a little mountain community above Los Angeles. As I often do, I get up early, I get a cup of coffee, make coffee for the crew. I happened to walk into the day room and I turned on KTLA, Channel 5. And what I saw transpire before me, I could not comprehend. I actually thought it was something like War of the Worlds or a very well done special effects movie. When the second plane hit, I knew it wasn't. I had walked into the dorm, turned the lights on, said, "On your feet, you need to come in here. Our lives have changed forever the way we know it."
Over the next 1 hour and 45 minutes, our lives would be indeed changed forever. At approximately 10:28 hours Eastern Time, Tower 1 would be the final tower to collapse.
Over 3,000 people died that day as the planes hit the World Trade Center, as Flight 93 was forced out of the sky by the passengers so it wouldn't crash, and while a plane crashed into the Pentagon, all within a short space of time. Imagine in your mind's eye what 3,000 people killed in less than the space of an hour and a half. 343 firefighters, 19 police officers. At that moment in time, the wheels were turning and help was on the way to New York. 2 Type 1 management teams loaded up at McClellan and headed east. One at Dulles, Washington Airport, one to LaGuardia. They were escorted by F-15 and F-16 fighters, locked and cocked, radars hot, not only to protect the aircraft flying across the country, the first aircraft that had flown since we grounded the aircraft that morning on 9/11, but also with the instructions if the pilots deviated more than 10 degrees off their course, they were to be shot down summarily. No warning. They landed at their respective airports. The reception for these 2 IMT teams was less than cordial.
The New York City Fire Department has a lasting tradition that dates back to the 1600s. We've handled some of the most crippling and complex events. However, this time, this incident was different. We had resources overwhelming New York with offers of help, but it was obvious that the city of New York needed help in a magnitude we weren't even prepared for.
The IMT teams were patient. They've been through this before. They've seen the effects that a tragedy like this can have on men and women, even men and women so well trained as we are. You've all seen it. So they patiently waited. They bided their time. And as men and women from all over America literally would get into cars and drive towards New York City, Washington, D.C., or the Pennsylvania field where the airliner crashed, where fire trucks would just show up into New York City, where truckloads and truckloads of supplies and water and things you can only imagine started homing in on that area. Gridlock, chaos, and difficulty.
But unfortunately, our pride got in the way of the ability to manage this incident on our own. The complexity was way beyond our scope.
I believe the breakthrough in BC, or in New York, was communications, not only between the teams, but between the need of communications, and the IMTs offered a solution.
That is correct. The Type 1 IMT that came to New York offered the FDNY assistance in communications. Now, communications were a problem since our supply was depleted. The Type 1 IMT offered us ample handy-talkies from a nearby cache that completed this order within 24 hours.
The IMT was able to secure the IC at, by the way, at this time New York City did not follow ICS. They had the New York City procedures. And they'd always worked, as he said, for over 100 years. But at this point, those things didn't work. They approached the IMT team and they said, "We've got this problem, can you help us?" And he said, "Sure. I can get you a radio for everybody in this department within 24 hours. And then they did.
Yes, in fact, the situation we had at hand, we have a cache that's large enough to handle all of our members, but we obviously had more members, off-duty members, members from all over the tri-state area helping to assist, going into complex situations and voids and tunnels and searches. And unfortunately, those members weren't staffed for radio communications. So we allowed that Type 1 team to assist us. And in that moment, they came through in a way that we could never have imagined.
So for the rest of the months, as the New York City Fire Department worked on the pile, the men and women of our management teams, they rotated through, assisted them, organizing the logistics of this massive effort in the largest contiguous convention center in the world, the Jacob Javits Center. There were supplies parked in the streets of New York and Wall Street and things like that. What we see over here multiplied 75 times just on one street, and they organized that for them, and they helped them with what we do so well, the planning effort. They worked behind the scenes. Their job was to assist New York City, the Washington, D.C. Fire Department, and the folks in Allentown. And this went on until they said it was over. We rotated through.
Yes, that is correct. The Type 1 team, the Southwest team, did operate for approximately 30 days. George Bush did make several visits to New York City, asked our incident commander at the time, "What is it that we could do for you?" And they said, "We need this incident management team to continue on." And so they transitioned to an Alaskan team from there on in, with teams replacing them on a 2-week period basis after that.
I tell a story, I have told a story before, of a fella who was laying on a pile of hose, and believe me, there was miles and miles and miles of hose there at Jacob Javits, and it was 2 o'clock in the morning, and he was dead tired. He'd been there for 5 days. He had a dog. He had a SAR dog. And he said suddenly his dog stirred, and he looked up, and he heard the clank. Of a Type 1 hotshot crew walking by with their tools, silently, the metal clanking. And he said, "You know what? It's going to be all right." We share a common language, and that language is ICS. You can go anywhere in the world, and we've proven that time and time again. We have proven that men and women just like you, that wear green pants and wear boots with knobs on them and get up in the morning at 5:30 and pull their pants on laying down, were who America called upon on one of the darkest days of our history. There's many of you in this audience that perhaps were there. But it warms my heart that we were a very special group of people, and we have these connections. I will share one with you now. When the lights come on the right, is a diagram of the World Trade Center and its footprint. 16 acres. Behind me is a diagram or a photograph of your base camp right here at Ward Field. 16 acres, World Trade Center. Tree line to tree line, runway to runway. Our base camp is 16 acres. That's pretty amazing. That's a connection across the country.
On a personal note, I just want to inform you, our team wasn't established until late 2004, early 2005, but it's because of teams like this right here that we were established, and we are turning around. It's opportunities like I was given this time that brought us to where we are. Now we've come full circle from being the student to now New York City is mandated to have an incident management team for the entire city, not just for the FDNY, and now we are becoming the teacher. So with that, I'd like to say, just like the members on that day, I came to this incident unaware of what to expect, being my first wildfire. What I'm taking from this event is a lasting memory of what brotherhood is, the same brotherhood that was shared on that very day. I would like to personally thank the incident commander, Jim Wilkins, the Southern California team, and the entire Gasky complex for this opportunity.
I will share it with you that New York City Fire Department has not forgotten. Since that incredible outpouring where they had over 350 funerals, and men and women like you traveled to help them get through that. Since that time, every service-connected funeral in the United States has a New York City firefighter there. I personally know, because I was at Esperanza. I was at Iron 44. And there was 2 or 3 FDNY firefighters there. And it's their small way of saying thank you. Let's take a moment in your own way to remember the men and women who gave so much and those who did so much to make it better. Thank you for your kind attention. We'll turn the lights back on. This concludes the briefing. Please go to your places where you're going to chat.